All right, let's get into it. There are some names in recent military history that just hit differently, and Blackwater, that's one of them. It's a name that basically became the poster child for privatized warfare, for this new type of soldier fighting in the shadows. So what we're going to do here is unpack the story of how this private company grew into one of the most powerful and most feared forces on the battlefield.
So I want you to just try and picture this scene. We're in Baghdad. It's September 16th, 2007. It's hot. It's chaotic. You're in Nisour Square, a super busy traffic circle, just packed with cars, people trying to live their lives. And then a U.S. State Department convoy rolls in, surrounded by these private security guards. And that's when all hell breaks loose. Gunfire just erupts everywhere.
And when it was all over, when the smoke cleared and the shooting finally stopped, there was one number that would just echo across the globe: 17. 17 Iraqi civilians, we're talking men, women, even children, were dead. And this single tragic event, well, it would forever define the legacy of Blackwater.
Yeah, that incident has a name, and it's one that's gone down in history: the Nisour Square massacre. This was the moment that dragged the whole shadowy world of private military contractors right out from the fringes and into the brightest, harshest spotlight imaginable.
And this really gets to the core of the whole controversy, right? You've got two completely different stories. Blackwater's guards, they claim they were ambushed, that they were just firing back in self-defense. But then you have the investigations, including one by the FBI, that came to a totally different conclusion. They found that at least 14 of those killings were completely 100% unjustified. So, two sides, one unbelievably tragic outcome.
But here's the thing. To really get how we ended up on that bloody day in Nisour Square, you can't just start there. We've got to rewind. We have to go all the way back to the beginning, to the company's origins, which, believe it or not, were actually pretty humble. You see, Blackwater wasn't forged on some battlefield. Nope, it was founded back in 1997 by a former Navy SEAL, a guy named Erik Prince. And its first home was this massive training facility way out in North Carolina. The name Blackwater, it literally came from the dark, peat-colored swamp water in the area. So it started out not as this private army, but as a place to train cops and military folks.
Okay, so the real turning point for them came in the year 2000. After the terrorist attack on the USS Cole, Blackwater lands its first huge government contract. But the real game changer? That was 2003. When the US invaded Iraq, the demand for private security just exploded. And Blackwater? They were right there, perfectly positioned to answer that call.
And this, of course, brings us to Iraq. This is the stage where Blackwater would morph from just another security company into something else, something way more powerful. It's what a lot of people started calling a shadow army, an army that was operating right alongside the regular military, but, not really playing by the same rules.
And look, Blackwater wasn't just guarding some supply depot in the middle of nowhere. We're talking about them landing a massive $21 million no-bid contract. Their job? To protect the top U.S. official in all of Iraq, L. Paul Bramer. This gig put them right at the heart of the American occupation, making them this critical, highly visible, and very controversial force.
And this is absolutely crucial to understanding the whole story. They were basically operating in a legal bubble. There was this directive called CPA Order 17. And what it did was grant all foreign contractors, including Blackwater, complete immunity from Iraqi law. Think about that. No matter what they did, they could not be tried in an Iraqi court. This just paved the way for a serious lack of accountability.
Which is exactly why the Nisour Square massacre, as totally horrific as it was, wasn't just some random one-off event. Not at all. It was more like the explosive finale of a long-building pattern, a whole series of violent, controversial encounters that had been happening for years.
I mean, just look at the Fallujah ambush back in 2004. 4 Blackwater contractors were killed, and the images of their bodies, burned and hung from a bridge, were broadcast all over the world. It was so shocking, so gruesome, that it directly triggered the First Battle of Fallujah, a huge U.S. military operation. This proved that what happened to Blackwater contractors could have massive, strategic consequences for the entire war.
In the list of other allegations, it's long, and it's really disturbing. You have incidents like a drunk guard killing the bodyguard of an Iraqi vice president and just getting sent home, no charges. You have allegations of smuggling weapons. There were claims of widespread steroid use. And maybe craziest of all, reports that the CIA actually hired the company for a top-secret program to assassinate al-Qaeda leaders. When you put it all together, it paints a picture of a company that was pretty much operating by its own set of rules.
And, maybe nothing sums up the whole perception of the company better than this one quote. And this isn't from some critic or a reporter. No, this is from an internal U.S. State Department memo. It's describing an incident where Blackwater guards killed an unarmed civilian. Their words, the random death of an innocent Iraqi citizen. That's how their own employer described what they did.
So, with this mountain of controversy piling up and outrage spreading across the globe, the fallout was, well, it was inevitable. The name Blackwater had become toxic, and the company was finally forced to deal with the repercussions of everything that happened in Iraq.
So, what was their main survival tactic? Basically, they tried to outrun their own history. The pressure got so intense that Blackwater had to change its name. First, in 2009, they became XX Services. Then, after the company was sold, it became Academy in 2011, and today it's been absorbed into an even larger company called Constellus. But let's be real, for most people, that original name is the one that's never going away.
But what about justice for the victims of Nisour Square? Well, after a really long and complicated legal fight in the U.S. court system, 4 of the guards who were there that day were convicted on murder and manslaughter charges. But then, in a final, and for many, a deeply controversial twist to this story, all 4 of them were given full presidential pardons in December 2020.
And really, when you boil it all down, the entire story of Blackwater leaves us with this one fundamental question. It's a big one. When a country decides to outsource war, who is ultimately held accountable when things go horribly wrong? It's a question that's just as important, just as relevant today as it was on that chaotic afternoon in a Baghdad square.